Female CEO reveals heartwarming loss, but the mechanic exposes an incredible truth: you still have time. Claire stared at the dimly lit workshop, her father's tools hanging in their familiar spots, waiting as if he might return to pick them up any moment. The air was thick with memories of laughter, advice, and the unmistakable scent of motor oil. It had only been 6 months since he passed, yet the weight of grief felt like a heavy cloak, pressing down on her shoulders. As the newly appointed owner of Thompson Auto Parts, Claire felt the community's eyes on her, skepticism in their gaze. Who was she, a woman, to steer her father's legacy in a male-dominated industry? Just yesterday, old Mr. Turner had shaken his head while fixing a flat on a truck, muttering, "This place needs a man at the helm." It stung, but Claire steeled herself. She had to honor her father's memory, but with each passing day, the realization deepened that sales were plummeting. The profit margins were almost non-existent. How could she revive a business so many thought was a relic of the past? It all changed when Joe walked in. A rough-edged, underappreciated mechanic returning from military service, he brought a spark that no one else had. He casually suggested innovative marketing techniques, social media promotions, and offering community workshops. It was a breath of fresh air, but Claire resisted. "Why fix what isn't broken?" She'd replied defiantly. Their arguments only fueled the town's gossip. People began whispering about Joe as the unsung hero, while Claire fought just to be seen as capable. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. It was during one particularly heated argument that Joe revealed a truth that unraveled everything Claire thought she knew. "Your dad was my mentor, Claire," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "He taught me everything I know about this business through kindness and tough love. He believed in me when no one else did." Claire's breath caught in her throat. Her father had a way with people, something she'd always admired but never fully understood. Joe's connection to her father ignited a whirlwind of emotions. Doubts about her independence twisted into guilt. She thought of the countless times her father had invested in others and how she'd now closed herself off, focusing only on the business while isolating the help right in front of her. As days turned into weeks, Claire felt her resolve waver more. Just when she thought she might accept Joe's suggestions, the shop faced a massive setback. An unexpected breakdown in the main delivery truck sent sales plummeting further, and with it, the townsfolk's support began to fade. Standing in the workshop, surrounded by memories, Claire felt a tear slip down her cheek. If she wanted to save the shop and herself, she needed to confront not just the business, but her own grief and stubbornness. Just then, the bell above the door jingled, and a familiar face stepped inside, sparking fear and confusion. As memories washed over her, Claire realized she stood at a crossroads. One choice could either bind her to her father's legacy or forge a new path beyond the shadows of grief. Who could she trust to help her navigate this storm? Claire's heart raced as the door swung open. There stood Mr. Turner, the man who dismissed her capabilities just days ago. His frame was stooped, but the sharpness of his gaze pierced through the dim shop light. He approached, hands shoved deep in the pockets of his worn-out jacket, and Claire braced herself for another round of condescension. Instead, he hesitated. "I heard about the truck," he said, clearing his throat. "Tough break." I thought. Maybe he paused, as if searching for the right words. "Maybe I could help." Confusion flooded Claire's mind. "Help? You never thought I could handle anything on my own?" "People talk," he muttered, scratching the back of his head. "I may have been wrong. This place, it means a lot to the community. Your father, he built it and didn't just leave it for you to run, he left it for everyone." A rush of unexpected warmth filled Claire. Maybe this man, who had seemed so rigid and dismissive, was just another voice in a sea of doubt. Perhaps, beneath the tough exterior, he felt a sense of loss, too. Grief united them, whether he knew it or not. "I can't just sit back and watch you struggle," Mr. Turner continued, his voice softening. "You're carrying a lot on your shoulders, and I've been in a similar spot. Maybe we could figure something out together." Claire studied him. A partnership? It felt unconventional, maybe even desperate, but wasn't that what her father would do? He would embrace unexpected alliances. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. "Okay, let us try." Over the next few days, Claire and Mr. Turner joined forces. They spread the word around town, inviting people in for free diagnostics and old-fashioned barbecues to bring the community together. Laughter filled the shop for the first time in months, as locals gathered. Joe joined in, directing their efforts with flair, discussing social media campaigns and workshop ideas that showcased local talents. "Who knew you'd make such an effective team?" Joe remarked one afternoon, his eyes twinkling. The sun streamed through the windows, painting them in warm hues, and for the first time, Claire felt a spark of hope flicker within her, but even amidst all the successes, doubt lingered. The whispers hadn't completely faded. Some patrons still eyed her skeptically, as if waiting for her to fail. Claire's breath hitched in her throat at the thought. Was she enough? Then, uncharacteristically bold, she decided to host an open forum that weekend. "I want to hear from you," she declared, standing on a makeshift stage in the yard. "This shop is as much yours as it was my father's, help me to make it something we can all be proud of." As people began to gather, nerves bubbled beneath her skin. She glanced at Joe and Mr. Turner, who stood at her side, steadfast and encouraging. Then, the sound of a familiar engine roared to life nearby. Claire's heart sank, the delivery truck was being unloaded across the street. With a grimace, she noticed the tension in Mr. Turner's expression. "Don't let that get you down," Joe said, nudging her gently. "We're on the right track." But as the crowd began to murmur and lose interest, Claire felt a wave of panic ripple through her. They deserved more than half measures, they deserved a vision, a real plan to pull the shop out of the shadows. In that moment, she knew what she had to do. She would not only show the community her father's legacy, but she would also share her own. With a deep breath, she raised her voice to address the crowd. "I see your doubts, but I also see a path forward. I want to build a future together. Will you join me?" Just then, a figure loomed at the back of the crowd, cloaked in shadows. Claire squinted, recognition washing over her like cold water. Who was that? What were they plotting? The energy in the air crackled. Claire's heart raced as she sensed something was brewing. Would this be the moment that determined the shop's fate? Claire's voice faltered for a moment, the unexpected figure holding her attention like a magnet. Her heart thudded hard against her chest, the crowd fading into a distant hum as her mind raced. "Who is it?" A voice from the front called out, drawing back Claire's focus. She glanced from Joe to Mr. Turner, both men's faces a mix of concern and curiosity, mirroring her own anxiety. The shadows shifted, revealing a familiar face. It was Greg, the mechanic who had worked alongside her father for years. His presence was a double-edged sword. While he was a pillar of the community, the last time they spoke was filled with unspoken tension. Their discussion had ended in raised voices. "What are you doing here, Greg?" she asked, the question slipping out before she could catch it. The crowd was still, the weight of her tone hanging in the air. "Claire," he began, his voice softer than she remembered. "I'm here to talk, not to cause trouble." He took a step closer, hands raised as if surrendering. "I've been thinking about the way things have been. Just because your dad's gone doesn't mean you have to fight this alone." There was a sincerity in his eyes, a hint of regret, but Claire's heart hardened. "Are you coming here to lecture me? Because I have enough of that already." "No," he said firmly, shaking his head slowly. "I've come to offer my support. The shop needs strength, and I can help with that." Regardless of what we've fought about before. Her breath caught. Could she trust him? Did he genuinely want to help, or was this yet another way for him to undermine her? The crowd around them was starting to murmur again, confusion rippling through the clusters of neighbors and friends. Claire could feel their gazes burning, a mix of skepticism and curiosity. "What do you think?" she asked, raising her voice while locking eyes with her audience. "Is it time to let the past go, to work together for a future?" "Absolutely," Joe shouted, the warmth of his encouragement rising above the murmurs. Mr. Turner nodded, his expression urging her to give Greg a chance. Claire took a deep breath. If her father had shown kindness to everyone, maybe she could, too. "Okay, Greg. Let us talk." He stepped closer, the sunlight catching the way concern shadowed his features. "I've got a few ideas that could really pull in customers and restore some faith in the shop. But I need your trust." The crowd leaned in, anticipation blooming. Claire could almost hear their thoughts, their hopes intertwining with her own. Yet deep within, doubt crept back in. Could she truly trust him, or was this a delicate truce ready to shatter? "All right," Claire said, her tone wavering but inspired. "Let us hear them. But make no mistake, if you try to pull anything, I won't hesitate to toss you out." A small smile crept onto Greg's face, and for a brief moment, the heaviness between them seemed to lighten. There was potential here, an opening. "Okay, I have some ideas to get people talking," Greg started, but before he could continue, the distant sound of shouting erupted from across the street. A sudden gust of wind whipped through the gathering, sending a wave of whispers through the crowd. Everyone turned to see another figure appear at the truck, a news reporter, microphone in hand, ready to broadcast the story of Claire's fight for the shop. This was her moment, and suddenly it felt like everything was crashing down. How could she handle this new surge of attention, with old wounds still open and a town eager for news? The crowd buzzed with energy, and Claire felt her stomach twist. She stood at the crossroads, a weighty decision looming ahead. Would this be the breakthrough she needed, or the disaster she feared? The tension hung thick in the air, and as the reporter approached, Claire realized one undeniable truth: the world was watching, and this was just the beginning. Would she rise to the occasion or let the moment slip away? Claire steadied herself, the reporter's eager gaze piercing through her uncertainty like a spotlight illuminating hidden doubts. The bustling crowd seemed both alive and frozen, expectancy coiled tightly in the air. She felt the urge to flee, to retreat where shadows could swallow her doubts whole, but she held firm. This was her father's legacy, and she couldn't back down now. "Good afternoon, everyone," the reporter's voice sliced through the burgeoning tension, her excitement bubbling under the surface. "I'm Molly Shore from WZRK News. Today, we have an incredible story from right here in our community, one that embodies resilience and hope in the face of loss." Claire crossed her arms, glaring at Greg momentarily before shifting her attention back to the reporter. She took a breath, focusing on controlling her racing heart. This was a chance and opportunity to share her father's spirit, to engage a community she desperately needed on her side. "I'm here to highlight the efforts of Claire Harmon, who is bravely stepping into her father's shoes and keeping his dream alive," Molly continued, the enthusiasm echoing through the crowd. "But I understand there's more to this story than meets the eye." It was the perfect opening. Claire stepped forward, her voice cutting through the gathering din. "Thank you, Molly. My father believed in this community. He spent his life here, dedicated to fixing not just cars, but the very spirit of our small town." There was a powerful pause. Claire searched the faces in the crowd, hoping to connect, hoping for understanding. "And while I've faced some challenges since losing him," she pressed on, "I'm committed to making this shop thrive. Greg and I may not see eye to eye all the time, but I need support, and I'm willing to let the past stay in the past for the sake of our community." She cast a sideways glance at Greg. His expression was serious, and for the first time, Claire felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps he meant what he said. Perhaps they could create something together even if it was shaky at first. Molly seized the opportunity. What specific plans do you have to revive the shop? And Greg, what's your role in this? Claire nodded, signaling Greg to take a turn. He caught her gaze, hesitated for a split second, then stepped forward, his tone steady. I have a few ideas that could really connect us back to the community. Special repair days, featuring stories about the cars we work on, bringing in families to share their journeys. It's about more than just fixing cars, it's about celebrating who we are. The crowd murmured, intrigued. Claire noticed Joe in the front row, nodding in approval. The ice felt like it was beginning to crack, albeit slowly. What do you think? Claire asked the crowd directly, her voice carrying urgency. Isn't it time for us to put our differences aside? To focus on what we can achieve together? A collective murmur of agreement rippled through the spectators. The hope she felt began to seep through her worry, but just as the energy surged, an unexpected shout rang out from the back of the crowd. What are you hiding, Claire? You think you can just gloss over everything now? Claire's heart sank as whispers filled the air. Was this moment of vulnerability about to shatter in front of her? She glanced towards the source of the voice, a local named Derek, known for his skepticism. Hold on, Molly said, sensing the shift. Let's talk about this. What do you mean? The crowd's interest flickered between Claire and Derek, the tension shifting again as doubt crept back in. Claire could feel the heat of scrutiny washing over her. Would one voice of doubt derail everything she was attempting to build? Is it really all that simple? Just pretend the past doesn't exist. Derek pressed, his voice more of an accusation than curiosity. As the chatter escalated, Claire's pulse quickened. Could she respond without crumbling? This was her moment to either face the truth of her fears or let them consume her entirely. The weight of the eyes around her intensified, and Claire inhaled deeply, ready to defend everything she was fighting for. Could she turn this confrontation into an opportunity to speak her truth? Or would the ghosts of her past condemn her efforts once and for all? The words hung in the air, thick with uncertainty. Claire's heart beat louder than the murmurs drifting around her. Derek's challenge felt like a spotlight on her darkest fears. She opened her mouth, struggling to find the right words to reclaim her narrative. No, she said, voice steadying, the past doesn't define us, but it shapes who we are. My father made mistakes, sure. But he also brought people together. That's what I want to continue. Can't we focus on what we can do now? A ripple of reaction coursed through the crowd, some nodding, others visibly still wrestling with doubt. The tension danced as their expressions varied from skepticism to reluctant hope. Glancing at Greg, Claire saw him leaning forward, a glimmer of support in his eyes. Molly jumped in, eager to guide the energy. Derek, can you elaborate? We want to understand your perspective. You can't just sweep things under the rug, Derek shot back, his voice sharp. What about all the people who felt abandoned? The promises unkept? Are they just supposed to forget? Claire felt the knot in her stomach tighten. Abandonment. That word cut deeper than she anticipated, dredging up memories she thought she had buried. I promise, I'm not asking anyone to forget, Claire replied, her voice rising slightly, fueled by a mix of defiance and vulnerability. What I'm hoping for is unity. I want to prove that we can build something better together. We can learn from the past without being shackled by it. Joe, still near the front, raised his hand. We all loved your dad, Claire. But some of us are hurting. It won't be easy to just pretend everything is fine. Her heart soared at his honesty, but it was also a weight pressing on her shoulders. I'm not asking for an easy journey. I know it will take time and trust to rebuild what was lost, she admitted, allowing herself a moment of genuine connection. But isn't that worth fighting for? Derek softened, his brow furrowed in thought. So what's your first step? Your plan? Claire smiled, grasping the moment. We start with the community. I want to host an open garage day fun, free repairs for families. A day of stories and sharing. A way to honor the past while creating a new future, together. The murmurs in the crowd shifted again, this time leaning towards intrigue. The yearning for connection was palpable, and Claire sensed that maybe, just maybe, this was the crack she needed to slip through. Molly turned back to the crowd. "You hear that? Claire's ready to listen, and she wants to make her father's dream a reality." But before anyone could respond, Derek raised his hand again, his face shifting from challenge to contemplation. "What if I said people deserve more than just repairs? What if they need the truth?" The air thickened with questions left unspoken. Claire's mind raced. The truth? Was there something buried beneath the layers of hurt that could still expose her father's mistakes? "Derek," she began cautiously, feeling the weight of the crowd's watches, "what truth do you mean?" And just like that, the chatter dulled as all eyes turned toward Derek. Claire felt a chill run down her spine. Was this conversation about to plunge deeper into a past she thought she could navigate? "What if I told you I know more about your father's final days than you do?" He pressed, a flicker of resolve in his eyes. The breath left Claire's lungs. What had he meant? What more could there be? She clutched her chest, trying to steady the rapid rhythm of her heart. The crowd leaned closer, a collective breath held as Derek prepared to lay bare secrets that could either shatter her world or ignite a fragile hope. And as his words hung in the air, Claire realized this moment was not just a challenge, it was a fork in the road, one that could lead her to a truth she hadn't anticipated. As uncertainty swirled around her, she couldn't help but wonder, was she prepared to confront what lay ahead? The room felt electric, charged with anticipation and anxiety. Derek stood there, ready to fill the silence with what felt like a bombshell. Claire's heart galloped in her chest, she could hardly breathe. What did he know? Was it something her father had kept hidden, or was it about Claire herself? "Your father wasn't just a leader in this town, Claire," Derek said, his voice steady yet laced with a weight that felt palpable. "He was a man with secrets. There were choices he made that put everything at risk: his business, his community, and ultimately, his family." Claire's mind raced. What secrets? Was she even ready to hear this? Before he passed, there were meetings, he had conversations behind closed doors. Some people got hurt because of those meetings, people we both know. Derek shifted his focus to the crowd, his gaze swept across the faces of those who had gathered, a collective mixture of curiosity, empathy, and distress. This isn't just gossip. It's about accountability. She could see the impact of his words. Shocked expressions, whispers of disbelief, unease rippling in the air like waves. Claire felt as if the earth beneath her was shifting. Her father had always been the anchor in her life, the steady figure who shone light on darkness. "What do you mean, Derek? What are you saying?" He took a step forward, narrowing his eyes, urgency pouring from him. He was involved in a deal that endangered lives, and when mistakes were made, instead of clearing it up, he buried it. That's why people are hurt, Claire. They trusted him to do the right thing, and when he didn't, well, it drove a wedge that's still deep. Claire felt faint, the world around her spinning like a carnival ride gone wrong. Derek's words echoed in her mind, reverberating off the walls of her memories. Growing up, her father had always talked about integrity and trust. Ironic, isn't it? She felt the cold grip of betrayal stab at the very core of what she believed. Was she fighting for a legacy made of lies? What happened? Who got hurt? Claire's voice trembled now, her chest tightening. Shadows loomed large around her spirit, and she needed answers, needed the truth. Derek hesitated, gathering the strength to say what had to be said. People lost their businesses, their livelihoods, and some lost more than that. Families torn apart by his actions. And that's where the community sits now. The trust is gone. With each word, the room grew heavier. She could see fragile connections to her father fracturing in the light of Derek's revelations. Claire had a decision to make. Could she confront this? Could she face the chaos her father had left in his wake? The weight of it all pressed down, making it harder to breathe. Yet, deep inside, something stirred a flicker of determination. If we are to move forward, we have to face the past, she finally said, her voice stronger. We owe it to everyone the hurt, the betrayed, and even to my father's memory. The crowd's energy shifted again, and Claire sensed something fracturing inside them to a shared understanding, a desire for healing. Derek, she said, looking him straight in the eyes, if you know more about this, we need to discuss it. It can't stay buried. All truths must come to light if we're ever to heal and unify. Derek nodded, a crease of respect forming on his brow. I'll share everything, but it won't be easy. Claire felt the tightness of fear and resolution twist together. She was ready, she had to be. With each revelation, they edged closer to reconciliation, but at what cost? And as her eyes swept over the crowd, she locked gazes with Greg, who was just as tense as she was. Could they build a bridge through this turmoil together, or was this a path that would tear them apart? Claire swallowed hard. She had opened the door to a truth she wasn't fully ready for. Now she had to step through. What other secrets lay on the other side? Claire took a step back, her mind a whirlpool of thoughts. It was as if Derek's words had stripped away the layers of her reality, leaving her exposed and vulnerable. She could feel the weight of the crowd's eyes on her, the buzzing energy shifting back to her like a spotlight shining on a lone performer at the center of the stage. Derek released a slow breath, running a hand through his hair. I know this is heavy, but the truth can't stay hidden, Claire. If we want to heal, we have to confront everything. The hall was silent, each pulse of energy radiating the same question: how could they begin to unravel what had been buried for so long? Start from the beginning, Claire urged, her voice stronger than she felt. Tell me everything you know. She could already feel her heart racing, not just from fear but from the flicker of resolve igniting within her. Derek nodded, his brow furrowed as he processed where to begin. It started with a shipment deal. Your dad was approached by some developers looking to expand, and the contracts were sketchy at best. The risks were downplayed. Lives were prioritized beneath profits, he said, his voice steady yet somber. Businesses were destroyed in the wake of failed promises. The community was torn apart because of decisions made for all the wrong reasons. He paused, scanning the faces in the crowd, searching for some sign of understanding, some recognition of what this meant. The glances shared among the townsfolk morphed into frowns, then flickers of rage and disbelief. There was betrayal hanging in the air like a thick fog. What do you mean some lost more than that? Claire pressed, her voice trembling with urgency. Some people were hurt in ways that went beyond material loss. There were accidents, fatal ones, he said, swallowing hard. Each word seemed to fall like a stone into a still pond, sending ripples of emotion through the crowd. Families are grieving, and the wound runs deep in this community. Claire felt as if someone had punched her in the gut. This couldn't be true. Her father, the man she held on a pedestal, could not have been responsible for such devastation. A flood of emotions rushed through her, leaving her dizzy and raw. Why didn't anyone tell me? Claire felt her voice wavering, a mixture of anger and despair threatening to break through. Why did they let him get away with it? Because they were frightened, Derek replied softly. Your father had a way of silencing those who disagreed, putting money ahead of lives. There it was, the unmasked truth she had sought so desperately. Wrapping her arms tightly around herself, Claire battled the rush of conflicting feelings. There was heartbreak in discovering who her father really was, and yet, another part of her understood the burden of secrets carried by those left in his wake, but she also saw determination in the faces around her. They were ready to reclaim their community from the shadows. If we want to heal, she repeated, filled with a sense of unexpected hope, we'll need to make this right. Together. The crowd stirred, some exchanging glances that spoke of agreement and resolve. There's strength in numbers, she continued, her heart pounding. We can demand justice, create transparency, and maybe, just maybe, return balance to this place we call home. A soft murmur of support spread through the crowd, but as Claire looked for Greg, she found him standing still, his expression tight as if fighting against an internal storm. "Greg," she called, her voice cutting through the murmur, "I could use your help. We can't do this alone." But before he could respond, another voice erupted from the back of the room. "And what if there's more than just this?" The crowd turned, surprised by the sudden shift in focus. What if hidden beneath this is something even darker? Claire felt a chill race down her spine. What did they need to uncover next that might change everything again? The room buzzed with a low intensity, like the hum of bees disturbed from their hive. Claire's heart quickened as she processed the newcomer's words. She turned, searching the faces in the crowd for answers, for clues about this new layer of mystery. The anticipation felt almost palpable, it hung in the air, thick with the unknown. "Who are you?" Claire demanded, her voice steady despite the tremor inside her. The tension shifted, eyes darting toward the figure at the back. It was a woman. She stepped forward, her face hardened but weary, as if she had carried the weight of the world for years. "My name is Rachel," she answered, her voice cutting through the thick fog of uncertainty. "I used to work for your father. I had no choice but to leave town when things went bad. But he didn't just ruin businesses, he destroyed lives." Each word struck like a hammer, echoing through the silence. "What do you mean by that?" Claire asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She could feel a mix of anger and desperation building within her. Rachel locked eyes with Claire, and in that moment everything she had held on to seemed to fracture. "After the accidents," Rachel continued, her voice trembling, "the developers wanted to hide everything. They offered people hush money. If you didn't take it, you were threatened. I saw it happen. Families silenced just like that." Gasps erupted from the crowd, faces contorting in anguish. Claire's heart raced with a mix of disbelief and empathy. How could her father have been a part of something so insidious? It felt as if she was grappling with a monster she had never known existed. "Do they really think they can keep it all buried?" Someone shouted from the crowd, his voice laced with ire. "Those families deserve justice. We all do." The murmurs of anger rose, fueled by Rachel's revelations. Claire raised a hand, trying to quell the rising tide of emotion. "We need to listen. There's more here, more than we realize. We can't just jump into this blindly." But Rachel's gaze intensified. "You don't understand. Your father might be the key to uncovering something much bigger." She took a sharp breath, as if her words carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken truths. "There are connections money launders, politicians in his pocket. If we dig deeper, we might find a network that you never knew existed. And they won't stop at anything to protect themselves." The crowd was now a mix of horror and intrigue. Claire felt the blood draining from her face. The truth was bigger than she could have imagined. Anger churned inside her, battling with the creeping fear and doubt. "Claire," Derek said softly, stepping closer, "if you're going to follow this, you need to be ready. It's not just your father we might be up against." She took a deep breath, glancing around at the hopeful faces in the crowd, then back to Rachel. "I can't let this go." "We can't let this go," Claire declared, a fierce determination igniting inside her. "But we have to do this right. We will gather evidence. We're not alone in this fight." But just as a flicker of hope sparked, the doors at the back of the hall burst open. A tall figure stepped inside, casting a long shadow over the room. Claire's breath stalled. The man was unmistakably familiar, an imposing presence that sent dread spiraling through her gut. "What is going on here?" he called out, his voice booming. "Claire, you should really be careful about who you're siding with." Her heart raced. The darkness was closing in, and she had just stepped into a storm she couldn't control. Would she dare to confront it, or was the truth more dangerous than she ever imagined? The room fell into a heavy silence, the kind where you could hear a pin drop. Everyone stared at the figure in the doorway, their faces a mix of shock and fear. Claire's father, Richard, stood there like a looming storm cloud, with his sharp suit and piercing eyes that had always seemed to demand respect. "Dad," Claire said, her voice barely above a whisper, a mixture of defiance and dread swirling in her chest. "Claire, this isn't the place for this kind of talk," he said, stepping further inside, his tone smooth but edged with authority. "You don't understand who you're dealing with." The crowd shifted nervously, the previous energy quickly replaced with an unsettling tension. Claire's pulse raced, the urgency of the moment pushing her thoughts into overdrive. Did he have any idea how deep the rabbit hole went? Did he think she'd back down just because he walked in? Rachel straightened, her resolve intact. "We're not afraid of you, Richard. Your secrets are coming to light whether you like it or not." His eyes narrowed, the corners of his mouth twitching into a taut smile that held no warmth. "You think you're brave, but bravery doesn't protect you from consequences. You're playing a dangerous game." "Then bring it on," Claire said, surprising herself with the strength of her voice. She felt Derek's hand on her shoulder, a steadying force. The crowd resumed its previous murmurs of unrest, emboldened by her challenge. Richard's expression hardened. These people have no idea what they're getting themselves into. The truth isn't just messy, it's lethal. Rachel took a step forward, undeterred. "We all deserve the truth, Richard. Families were torn apart. Lives destroyed. You can't silence everyone forever." Realizing the gravity of the situation, Claire felt a weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. The lives affected by her father's actions were not mere stories, they were families, friends, good people who had felt the edge of his decisions. It was overwhelming, but she had to forge ahead. "You can threaten us," she said, her heart pounding, "but we've lost our fear. We're ready to fight back. You won't control this narrative anymore." Richard laughed, a cold, dismissive sound that sent chills through the crowd. "You're naive, Claire. This isn't a simple fight, it's a war. You think just because you gather a few angry faces here, you can change anything?" Some in the crowd shrugged off his intimidation, murmuring their disagreement and rallying around Claire. She glanced at Derek, who nodded, his expression reassuring. Their determination ignited a fire in Claire, amplifying her voice. "Watch us. We will expose the truth. Together." Richard stepped closer, the distance between them charged with unspoken animosity. "Remember this moment," he said, his voice low and threatening. "You'll find out just how far I'm willing to go to protect what's mine." Claire's heart sank for a heartbeat, but anger quickly surged again. This wasn't just about her father or his empire, it was about justice and redemption. As he turned to leave, his last words hung in the air, heavy with menace. "Don't say you weren't warned." The crowd stood together, buzzing with energy, but Claire felt the weight of impending confrontation settle in her gut. This was far from over. She turned back to the people around her, taking a deep breath, reminding herself of what was at stake. "Who's with me?" she called out, a mix of grit and resolve clear in her voice. And as they shouted their support, it made her feel stronger, more capable. But unease flickered inside her. What lengths would her father go to stop them? Claire knew they were just beginning a battle, one that could unravel everything she once believed. Would her family ties keep her anchored, or would they drag her down into the depths of a nightmare? A heavy silence followed the defiance, the weight of uncertainty pressing on all their shoulders. Yet in the chaos, one burning question remained: had she just opened Pandora's box? Claire stood at the edge of uncertainty, the weight of her father's legacy pressing heavily against her heart. Around her, the crowd murmured, their expressions a mix of fear and defiance. Richard's threat still hung in the air like a storm cloud waiting to break, but Claire understood that it was now or never. She had to seize this moment to embrace not just her future but also the future of the community that had cradled her and her father. Together, she shouted, rallying the energy in the room. Together, we can hold him accountable. Together, we can uncover the truth. Her voice rang with conviction, solidifying a bond among the onlookers who had shared in her struggles. Joe took a step closer, his eyes filled with unwavering support. Claire's right. This town deserves to know everything. We will stand with you. The community's murmurs shifted from fear to solidarity, invigorating Claire's resolve. In that moment, Claire felt a profound change within her. No longer would she be the timid daughter overshadowed by the weight of her father's shadow. Instead, she would become a leader willing to shine a light on the darkness that had long hidden in their midst. With every face around her, she saw strength and resilience gradually transforming their collective grief into a fierce determination. Rachel, Claire called, turning towards the woman who had ignited their shared purpose. If we're going to uncover the truth, we need to gather evidence. We can host interviews, share experiences. We need to document everything that happened. Rachel nodded, her eyes sparkling with renewed hope. Absolutely. We'll gather stories, collect testimonies. It's time for this community to reclaim its voice. Claire glanced around, meeting the gazes of familiar faces, friends, parents, all those who had offered support in moments of darkness. We deserve to heal together, and it starts with unveiling the truth my father buried. It's not just about confronting him, it's about restoring what we lost. The crowd erupted into cheers, their chanting voices echoing in the open air as they rallied around her. Their faces reflected a determination she hadn't felt before this moment, and the flicker of hope ignited a flame within her. But even amidst their emerging unity, the echoes of Richard's threat echoed ominously in Claire's mind. Would his darkness seep back into their lives? The battle was just beginning, and she knew it would test the mettle of everyone involved. Days turned into weeks. As the community began to share their experiences, a tapestry of stories, joys, and heartbreaks emerged. They held workshops at the shop that turned into counseling sessions, healing both people and machines. They were uncovering layers of remembrance that connected each family to the ethos of their town, the way her father had once done. Through all the focus on truth and unity, Claire finally began to confront her grief over her father's passing. She still missed him but realized he wasn't just the man she idolized. He was human, flawed like anyone else. Their relationship blurred, moving from hero worship to a complicated understanding of the man behind the legend. If we find closure together, we can allow ourselves to grow, Joe remarked one day while they worked late at the shop, the scent of motor oil mingling with laughter. He offered her a warm smile. Your father's legacy doesn't have to be a shadow. It can be a lesson. Tears brimming in her eyes reflected the depth of her transformation. You're right, she said softly. It can help shape the future if we let it. As the final weekend of their community initiative approached, Claire prepared for the biggest event yet. She invited families to come celebrate with food, music, and shared stories, bringing a renewed spirit into the shop, a way to weave her father's legacy into something beautiful. On the day of the event, excitement and anxiety danced through the air. Families gathered, their faces painted with anticipation, reflecting hope that felt almost tangible. Claire stood at the entrance, her heart racing as she looked at the crowd. This was it. They were finally facing the truth together, ready to heal. With warm smiles and laughter erupting around her, Claire welcomed everyone. Then she stepped onto an improvised stage, heart pounding. Thank you for being here today, she began, looking into the collective eyes of a vibrant tapestry that represented her community. Today is about more than my father or the past, it's about us. It's about honoring the lives affected, the struggles faced, and the triumphs ahead. As the cheers filled the air, she felt a wave of assurance wash over her. They were no longer standing alone, they were standing as a collective, a family knit together by shared experiences. And then she spotted him, Richard, lurking at the edge of the gathering, his expression rigid and betraying none of the devastation he felt. Claire stood tall, unwavering, determined to not let fear overshadow the light that had blossomed in her heart. Together, she called out once more, we can build a community that reflects love, restoration, and hope. Together, we can reclaim the trust that was lost. As an uproar of support erupted from the crowd, Richard stepped back slowly, realizing his threats had become mere shadows against the sunlight of their resilience. With that, Claire found the courage to face the truth and acknowledge the strength in her community. They were ready to move past the secrets of the past, into a flourishing future. This was just the beginning. And Claire knew, with every fiber of her being, they would not stop until justice was served and light was restored to their townsfolk. In that moment, she felt something she hadn't in a while, a profound sense of hope. Now was the time for transformation, and together, they would thrive. You need to subscribe now to witness the incredible journey of Claire and her community. This is the moment to show your support and not miss out on the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help more people find inspiration in their challenges. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about how the story concluded. Your voices matter. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and know they're not alone. Your engagement fuels our storytelling journey, and we are so grateful.